For years, particularly since Donald Trump took office, you've heard Democrats talk about upholding norms. You've heard them warn of the dangers of Trump and his acolytes. You've heard them say they pose an existential threat to democracy, and some of the most hyperbolic doomsday prophets even believe that the elevation of MAGA candidates could lead to a civil war. So then why are some Democrats trying to help these MAGA candidates win? That's right, Democrats actually putting out ads to help extreme right-wing candidates defeat more moderate Republican opponents in their primaries. Now, there's a method to their madness, which we'll explain in a moment, but let's be very clear. This is madness. The leading House Democratic super PAC, with which House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is directly affiliated, has put out ads, for example, trying to defeat moderate Republican Congressman David Valadao in California's 22nd District. Valadao was thought by some to be vulnerable in a GOP primary because he was one of the 10 Republican members of the House who voted for the impeachment of former President Trump. So he's facing a primary challenge from a MAGA candidate named Chris Matisse. Matisse, a businessman and rancher, is now being pumped up by TV ads in California's 22nd District by Democrats. Yes, Democrats are incredibly touting Matisse as the true conservative in the race.
Same label. So Republicans got to check the ingredients. David Valadao claims he's Republican. Yet, David Valadao voted to impeach President Trump. Yeah, Valadao voted to impeach Trump. And Republican Chris Matisse, a true conservative, 100% pro-Trump and proud. Pro-Trump Republican Chris Matisse, military veteran, local businessman. Or politician David Valadao who voted to impeach Trump. Republicans, it's time to decide.
That's coming from Democrats. Not only are they trying to defeat Valadao, they're talking up Matisse. They're promoting his conservative credentials, praising his military service. That's not the only example around the country of a Democratic super PAC trying to prop up far-right Republicans. In Colorado, a Democratic super PAC is promoting election-denying Congressman Ron Hanks in his primary bid against moderate Republican opponent Joe O'Dea, as they battle to face off against Democratic Senator Michael Bennet in the fall. In Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker and the Democratic Governors Association are plunking down millions, according to Axios, in an effort to defeat moderate Republican Richard Irvin in the primary and instead boost the candidacy of his more extremist foe, Darren Bailey. And in Pennsylvania, the state Democratic Party helped far-right gubernatorial candidate Doug Mastriano defeat his more moderate opponent, Lou Barletta. Mastriano's been subpoenaed by the January 6th Commission for his involvement in Trump's Stop the Steal campaign. So why would they do this? Why? It's politics. Pure, dishonest politics. The way these Democrats figure it, they think their candidates have a better chance to win if they face off in a general election against a more extreme candidate rather than someone with more moderate views. And maybe that's true. The Cook election report, which forecasts races around the country, had the Pennsylvania governor contest a toss-up before Mastriano won the Republican nomination, and now they rate Democrat Josh Shapiro as the favorite to win. But as any gambler knows, favorites don't always win. And Doug Mastriano has a much better chance to be Pennsylvania's governor today because of the Democrats. The same Democrats who on MSNBC and CNN preach about how important it is to democracy that MAGA candidates are defeated. This is all just so dishonest. It's the very thing people hate about politics most. Politicians deceiving us with lies. Joining us now is Mike Mikas. He's a Democratic strategist based in Pittsburgh. Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, what am I getting wrong here?
Look, I understand what you're saying, that this is, it looks bad. But sometimes in an election, in an environment, it gets so bad that you have to take risks. And I'm not saying that Democrats need to be doing this in every district and every state across the country, but there are a handful of races where they can do this. And it has been done in the past successfully. Claire McCaskill used this tactic when she ran for re-election in 2012. She probably would have lost re-election had they not nominated a far-right candidate. At the same time, while I do support this in some of these instances, it does give me heartburn and it does make me worry. As a Democrat, the last thing I want is a Doug Mastriano to be my governor here in Pennsylvania. I understand what you're saying, but in some cases, you have to win because the bottom line is the Republican establishment, the so-called establishment, has been a lapdog. They've rolled over for the Trump wing of the party. And unless we win elections on the Democratic side, they're going to continue to do what they can to tear down our democracy.
So let me ask you. But you're using those phrases again, right? Tear down democracy, et cetera. But isn't it hypocritical for Democrats, for you to talk about democracy's under attack, et cetera, and then actually publicly support these Trump acolytes in TV ads? You're literally paying money for these people to be promoted who you've just told me are a fundamental threat to our democracy. I mean, how do we run elections this way? How do we have any faith in our politics this way? I mean, I guess my position is it should give you more than just heartburn, right? I mean, it should give you a heart attack.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Dan, but the bottom line is, it's about winning elections. And sometimes in elections, because there are no guarantees, you have to play the odds. Using your gambler's reference, you have to play the odds and assume that you want to go up against one candidate rather than the other. And I'm sure all of these campaigns and these entities have empirical evidence through polling that shows that. But like you said, sometimes the favorite does not win. And, that is what concerns me. But at the same time, when you're in a political environment with skyrocketing inflation, they're saying we're on the verge of a recession. The political environment is very bad for Democrats. And sometimes you have to take some chances to win these elections.
But again, you've given me a very eloquent explanation of why a campaign strategist would say, okay, this is something we should consider. I guess now I'm asking you as a citizen who has been warning us, you say, about the fundamental threat to democracy that certain people promote. And then your side, I'm not saying you personally, but your side is out in select elections, out promoting these very people. It just seems to me there's a difference between criticizing the moderate candidate, right? I can see that. And actually touting the extremist candidate. I guess those of us who are somewhere near the middle are worried on both sides about the gamesmanship that's occurring. And, this is the ultimate in the sort of gamesmanship in an effort to, quote unquote, win at all costs and also potentially push us more towards the extremes, either potentially more extreme on the left or one of these guys on the right wins the election because you guys have been out there telling us how great they are.
Well, I totally understand what you're saying, Dan. For example, if I were in charge of running the California ad, I would not have touted the Republicans' credentials. What I would have done was painted him as too conservative, as they did in Pennsylvania with Mastriano. With Mastriano, they took on his record and said he's too conservative for Pennsylvania because that you had a 2-for-1 there. One, if you want him as the nominee, it appeals to Republicans that he's too conservative. But at the same time, the swing voters, and there are a lot of swing voters in Pennsylvania, it sends a message to them at the same time that he would be the wrong candidate for them to choose. So I can't say every single instance that things went as well as they could have or were done as in the way that I would have done it. But I understand why campaigns and why organizations are doing this.
Final question. Can we agree that it's dishonest?
What I'd say is it's putting yourself, your candidate, your party in the best position to win. And that's what campaigns are about.
AKA dishonest?
It's what campaigns are about.
All right.
It's about elections.
Mike, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.